When I gave the speech, I didn't think I was doing anything, even in this moment, I didn't think I was doing anything revolutionary because I was just like, but we talk about these things as Africans in our living rooms. We talk about it on Twitter. We especially our generation, where like colonization happened, it messed us up, and you guys are not acknowledging it. You're not acknowledging you also have the same problems as we do. You are a bit condescending to us. We talk about it, but I think I was just like, I've just said what we always talk about on these stages. Whatever.
So we ask you, Mr. President, how strong can a relationship that is built on pain, that is built on skepticism, and that is built on lack of trust really be? We, not just as a team here, want a commitment from you, Mr. President, that you will join us in the eradication of La France Afrique, which is a very unfair dominance, and it has to end.
To some extent, being a Kenyan is, and in the situation of Kenyans as the people and our leaders, it's an abusive relationship. It really is. It's every 4 years they remember us and they come and like soothe us with sweet nothings and whatever. And then for the remaining time, it's abuse, it's overtaxing, it's stealing, it's all of these things. And then they beat you down to a pulp so much. And then they come back and they now give you love the year of, well, fake love, but they give you love the year of elections. That's the cycle of an abusive relationship, if you think about it.
Hello and a warm welcome to LNS. My name is Lynn Ngugi. Now, my guest today, first, I love her, but she is also the first person that has made me question my identity. When I watched her on stage, respectfully addressing the France president, I knew it's time that we started having conversations that we do not want to have. I'm about to let her introduce herself. But before I do that, allow me to say thank you to Elegance Fashion for coming through with this nice outfit, and you guys, you can check them out. Their contact details are here. If you want a dress or two, ndio your number hapo. And of course to our partners here at Westwood Hotel for giving us this therapeutic space so that we are able to bring you conversations that have the ability to impact lives. And now, without further ado, please allow me to let my guest today introduce herself.
Good morning.
Hi, Adele.
Hi. First, thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
Secondly, the dress is gorgeous. The
Oh,
first, when you walked in the morning, I was just like, oh my goodness, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And really nice to have you on my show. This is, you know, this is a dream come true.
Really?
Yeah.
And for me as well.
No, it's for me.
Yeah.
It's for me. It's because you are one of the women I have looked up to. Oh God, we will go to that part. Now, please just introduce yourself.
Oh my days.
Yes.
So first, thank you for having me. In all of the platform that you've built, I have to start by saying that I think as a Kenyan woman, African woman, what you're doing is so important, and I want to give you your flowers in that regards now while you're doing it.
Thank you.
In terms of introducing myself, it's always so strange, isn't it, to
Yes.
introduce yourself, and it's like, what am I?
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between, not to get too deep, but who are you and what do you do?
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
So I think I am an evolving African woman, just trying to give myself space to constantly be learning and unlearning. That's who I am. And what I do is, I've been on radio for 10 years, and then I quit in 2019 and started my podcast, Legally Clueless. So I'm the founder and the host of that, which is a space where Africans come to share their stories of their lived experiences. And we've had you on the show, and so that's like my main job. And we've really made headway with that. We have audio episodes, video episodes, and a tour series as well. And then I also run an organization called the Adelle Onyango Initiative, and our main space that we work in is helping survivors of sexual violence get access to free quality psychosocial support. So when you're thinking of therapy, a lot of people, it's a privilege, unfortunately, because it's expensive. A lot of people think it's a luxury. But the same way as going to a doctor for a physical problem, that's how important it is to go to a doctor for a mental issue as well. So that's what I do. Those are the spaces that I occupy. And so I do public speaking. I think I'm just really just an evolving African woman. I find myself in spaces now after leaving radio that I'm like, the heck am I doing on stage with
the presidents, with the who? You know, we have Macron there taking notes, and I'm like, who is this woman?
It's surreal, but in a nutshell, that's who I am and what I do.
And I love that my audience are always very patient with me and my introductions. You know, I have to say, I was telling you earlier when we were doing the
glamming up.
The glamming up, and I said I attended one of your show. It was called Perspective.
Oh yes,
Perspective.
Lynn, I think I remember that.
Do you remember?
Yes,
you remember.
I remember seeing you.
You remember seeing me?
Didn't you speak?
I think I
edited something with you.
I think our editor will find it. I'm pretty sure our editor will find it. And you know, for me, it was because I was in a very dark space. And then I came and I saw you doing it. Because in this, you know, in this dream, you want to give up so many times.
Absolutely.
So many times.
Absolutely.
And I was in such a dark space. Man. And when I came and I saw how passionate you are about having these conversations, I was like, Lynn, you cannot give up. So in a nutshell, I want you to know, when it comes to the women, I genuinely look up to. And not because you are on my show. You are one of those women.
Oh, that's such a... Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
You are one of those
you know, now that you've said it, I remember cutting a snippet of someone speaking and like of audiences and what they were saying.
Yes, that
is crazy.
No, I know I look so different back then, guys, but the essence is, you know, sometimes when you want to give up, it's important for you to go to people that makes you want to dream again. And I also remember when, so many remember, you know, don't worry, I love my audience, they'll understand me. I remember when I ventured out on my own, and I met you at AfriPods, where they were doing the podcast. That time, you know, when you're venturing out on your own, it's really crazy. And you said one thing to me, Lynn, I want you to know sometimes it gets lonely at the top. And if you ever want to talk to someone, if you ever want to talk to anyone, I'm here.
Yes, and I was just going to say that, and I do mean that, because I feel like our industry is very lonely, especially if you're trying to do impactful work. Many people feel like they have to do hype and like cloud chasing and very shallow things just to kind of like keep a buzz. But when you're trying to be intentional about what you do and impact and what, it's a very lonely road. Because in an essence, you're trailblazing because nobody has done it before. So it's hard to even say, oh, let me call Sheila. She did something. It's hard because you look around, you can't see anything that is close to what you're doing, right?
And you are like, Oprah is very far away from me right now.
I don't have a phone number, you know? So it's important, and I felt that loneliness while I was a radio presenter. I felt that loneliness, and I think it scarred me to the point where even interacting with people now in the space, it's a bit hard for me. Even coming to the I was very awkward in that the podcast meetup that you're talking about, because it's like you're so used to being lonely, you're so used to not trusting that people want the best for you, that you're just like,
you want to kill.
You know,
you
exactly.
Protect yourself.
And it's tough. So when I see someone doing something impactful and intentional, because I know that loneliness, that's why I said it to you, because I was like, I don't want us to have to feel this anymore. If there's a way we can, even if it's not collaboration, if it's like, I'm just tired. Like I've pitched, things are not coming through, you know, just somebody to be like, imagine just keep going, it's fine. Or even me, I'm going through, you feel less alone.
You feel less alone. I love that we are at a point where we can have these really vulnerable conversations. Because for me, I insist that it's okay not to be okay.
Absolutely.
And I think I'm done with projects that are preaching prosperity. Like bravery means you don't cry, you don't cave, you don't feel pain. I love that you've also shown us that it's okay not to be okay. And I know you've also been very open with your story. And I know most of the people watching, they are very aware of all the things that you've gone through. But you showed us it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to cry. So good
and I'm
job,
a
Adelle.
crier.
You are.
Even for things that don't need tears, I'm just like, I'm ready.
At least I've met my man.
I'm ready.
I don't even need tears. Like,
it feels good afterwards, though.
It
like
feels,
a good cry is
good.
It's cleansing.
It's cleansing, you know.
Yeah.
I love this. Anyways, the reason why I felt it was, you know, important for me to have you speak to our audience. It's because when I watched you on this video that has now gone viral, addressing people I cannot even dare open my mouth in front of, and we had you standing right there, speaking your mind. I don't want to be the one to give the details. If you could first give us the details of that conversation and why you are so passionate about what you are saying. And also, me as an African woman or an African man, why is it important for us right now to start questioning our identity?
That's quite powerful, and I'm so honored that we're having this conversation. So that conference or summit, it's called the New Africa France Summit. And so it usually used to happen, but it would have heads of states. So it would really be Uhuru going and talking about certain things and whatever. But they wanted to do it a bit differently and have, I don't want to say young Africans, because then that discounts other Africans too. So it was to have different Africans who are doing certain projects or like really involved in trying to build solutions to problems in the room at that one time with the France president. And so how I got there is because I was doing work with the French embassy at the time. In documenting women who have been impacted by their various projects that they support. So be it refugee women in Kenya, some who are also survivors of sexual violence like myself. So sitting with them, getting their stories and things like that. And so then they said, actually, we think you're the right person to go for this summit. Initially, and I think this is something every human goes through, when it's like the universe has given you this opportunity, you question yourself and you doubt. It's like imposter syndrome. You're just like, why me? I'm not the person, you know, and you're almost ready to give an excuse. You know, now I have to be in Kenya, I can't leave or something, just so that you don't go for it. So I did go through those moments of like thinking, why would they want me to talk about these things? Like, it's not centered only on women, which is my comfort zone. This is very different. I just had to keep telling myself, but you're African. Just by virtue of you being African, not about the work you do in the public, whatever, just by virtue of you being African, don't you think it's important for you to be part of this conversation? And I was like, okay, fine, let me start from there. So before the summit, I was workshopping with, so in the video you see we're about 11 panelists in total. And so they're Francophone, they're from Francophone Africa. So the language of comfort for them is French. So I was the only English-speaking panelist. Through the workshops, I had like a translator with me. So it was my first time actually being the minority in that regard. So it also made me think about, I'm like, wow, when we have these conversations, do we even think about people who don't speak English, you know? How do we include them? It was really an awakening for me. And during those workshops, we were talking about just the various things, especially African countries that were colonized by France went through. Please remember, these are not things that as a Kenyan, we learned in GHC. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't learn about what happened to other Africans as well. So they were grueling sessions, and we would meet from 8 a.m. in the morning till like about 7 p.m. in the evening. That's when we were leaving the workshop to go back to the hotel. So even initially, I was like, hey, when I'm there, I'm going to see Paris. All the things I see in series and whatever. Wherever I literally the first 5 days had no time for anything because we were just working that hard. We knew as the 11 Africans, we had such a huge responsibility for our countries. We had to take it seriously.
Yes.
And we were looking at the different solutions. We were looking at our pain points. We were talking about colonization, what happened, so many deep, heartful things and heavy conversations we're having. Even after the workshops, we used to have like kumbaya moments where now we sit in a circle and it's just like, are you okay?
Are you okay?
Like, how are you feeling? And you really share your real vulnerable emotions at that point. So we started off as strangers. By day 4, we were, you know, like brothers and sisters, regardless of some of us not being able to communicate in a language, but we were tethered, which is very powerful. So then the summit came and, you know, I feel like any space you occupy, you have to carry the truth with you. That's what's powerful. And so when I was writing my speech and I was working on it on those four days, I remember even posting it on my Instagram because I think on day 3 we had a meeting with the president and his team in like the presidential palace. And I remember just thinking, what the heck am I doing? Like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I sitting opposite the president and telling him, you will have done this, it's nonsense. Like, why? You know what I mean? And I was just like, I'm not a diplomat. I'm not a member of parliament.
I'm just a
I'm just Adelle. Like, what is this? Is crazy. And I posted that day. I posted on my Instagram, and I was just like, you guys, please send me all the good energy because I'm working on the speech, and I really want it to be truthful more than anything. And so when I gave the speech, I didn't think I was doing anything. Even in this moment, I didn't think I was doing anything revolutionary because I was just like, but we talk about these things as Africans in our living rooms. We talk about it on Twitter. We especially our generation, we're like, colonization happened, it messed us up, and you guys are not acknowledging it. You're not acknowledging you also have the same problems as we do. You are a bit condescending to us. We talk about it, but I think I was just like, I've just said what we always talk about on this stage, whatever. And even the what I was told is that he would be sitting down and it would be only us on the stage, right? Day of the event, we get to the summit. Sorry, I'm telling you this entire story.
No, it's okay. We are here for it.
So we get to the venue of the summit, and first, so now they've put me to sit next to him, and I remember like sending a video to my friend, and I'm just like, what? Like the name tag is like President of France. I'm like, why the heck is this man sitting next? Like, this is surreal. Yeah. And then the MC calls him up on stage, and I remember, thank God the camera didn't pan to me, because I remember being like, no, that's not the plan. He's meant to be down here and then us up, so that at least when I'm saying my hash things, he's not close.
Akombali kidogo. Yeah.
But you know, when you're there, you don't. It went well, and I said my truth. I didn't think I'd done anything out of this world. When I left the stage and we were done with everything, the reaction from the Africans in the room was like very powerful, and they would just saying thank you. And I think that almost broke me, because I felt like as Africans, we've been carrying some pain for a long time, you know, and I wasn't cognizant of that at the time. Yeah. So I went to bed, went out with the other Kenyans who came to the summit, then went to bed, woke up like the next day much later, because now I was so tired, the whole week was hectic. Downstairs, my friend, who's also my videographer, is like, I think you're on French TV. I'm like, what? And I'm checking my phone, and it's like so many WhatsApps, and first I checked my phone, that is like my private number. So I'm worried. I'm like, yeah, something happened at home, because it's not the family WhatsApp groups have so much commotion. And then that's when I saw somebody put the video and it went viral. Yeah. But I think what is more important is not even who I am, and that I am the one who carried the message. I think it's the message, right? Yeah. That's what's important. I think it's also important to understand as Africans where I'm sitting from. I think we're going through an identity crisis. It's very hard to, even as an individual, before we start linking it back to our ancestors, to know who you are if you don't know where you've come from, right? Yes. And as Africans collectively, it's very similar that we have a very painful past, all right? People came into our spaces, told us we were less than, in a very violent manner violated us, and then kind of like swept it under the rug and are telling us, let's just move on. You know, let's do business. Let's continue moving. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like, but you hurt me. You killed my people. You stole from us. You did all of these things intentionally. There's a lot of hurt. And in some African countries, quite a few, it is still happening to date. Even with that France relationship, if you look at what's happening in countries like Mali and whatever in present day, it's still happening. And so now that we're having this identity crisis, we're going back and we're wondering, what happened to our ancestors actually? And why can't we find all of the information in one place?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Talk to me about why can't we? Why is information so scarce for us?
I think it links to two things. If you think about our education system, even if we look at just Kenya, right, and history, I think we really learned a whitewashed version of our history, and also our history from a certain point, almost like we just appeared, you know, not really chambuaing what happened, what really happened behind the scenes, what happened back in the day, you know, what did the British really do to us? You know, and if you look at it, it's intentional that a lot of this information is missing from our education system, because if you want people to be in a position where you can control them, you deny them knowledge about their own selves. And so we have to also understand that this is intentional. Another thing that is a conversation that is happening is during colonization, a lot of looting happened. And they call them objects, but to our ancestors, these things were bigger than objects. There were things that were part of ceremonies, there were parts of communities, there were parts of our culture, right? They were elements that were part of who we are. They were looted. The word is looted, not airlifted, not borrowed. They were looted, You stole. And so it's not only objects, but also our archives. They call them migrated archives, but they were really taken, right? Some were burnt, some are very far from us. So even in terms of the objects that were taken away from our various communities across the continent, we also don't really have a detailed account of what was taken, what was not, what's the name of this one, whatever. And the reason we don't have that is the documents or the information that was gathered maybe orally and then written down, whatever, was taken, right? So it's quite sad, Lynn, if you think about it. Objects from our various communities are seated in Western museums that are inaccessible to us. Why? Why are they there? There's really no good reason why they're there. Sometimes when there's negotiations to say, hey, bring them back, people will say things like
negotiating.
People will say, oh, but are you sure you know how to take care of them? Are you crazy? I was being told a story during that France trip. There's a museum we went to. I forget the name, but it has a lot of artifacts from Western African countries. And some of them, you know, one of the curators, he even subscribes to an African religion now. He's a white Frenchman. But working around this space, he's realized, oh my God, there's so much wealth in this culture. So he's really, you know, subscribed to a lot of African things. And he said, he told me that there was a time some elders from a Western African community came, and they looked at some of the busts and the face masks and stuff, and they said, why are you keeping them over here? This is so boring for them. When we had them, we would take them outside, we would talk to them, we would use them, and they would be part of certain ceremonies, you know? But you guys have kept them here and you've locked them. This is not the right way. So they're not things that you go and look at. You know, they're different for us. There's something deeper that they mean for us. But they're so far from us. So if we're to address this identity crisis, we must look at education. We must look at exactly what happened to us back in the day. we must bring back these objects and the migrated archives so that we can start understanding who are we, what was happening back then, what was working, that now we are being told drop it and take a Western route. Not to say everything Western is bad, but there was something we were doing that was of value that, hey, even the Western guys could borrow from us, you know? And so I think those are some of the areas we need to look at if we are to address like an identity crisis that I think we're going through.
You know, for me, to see the president, Kwanzaa, I know, are you guys okay?
Everybody thinks I have, like, we chat.
I mean, people like, she stood up to the president of France. You stood up to an entire president. But you guys, you're okay, right?
I mean, I'm not friends with him.
Yes, no, but you think you're okay.
Yes, it wasn't, and I think even afterwards, he did remark and he was like, oh, so they sent you to tell me some harsh truth. I was like, no, this is just, it's honest. It's what we're feeling.
It's the truth.
It's what we're feeling. And sometimes when you only talk to other presidents, they will not tell you this truth because then they're thinking about the deals they want to do with you behind the scenes. So they're not going to be honest with you. Me, I have no deals to do with you.
We know.
I mean, you know, I'm not taking your money, nothing. So after I'm done, I'll get back on my flight and go to my Nairobi. So I think it was a bit unnerving, and not only me, I think even the other panelists really there were times where it got really heated. It got really heated. But it's important. Those are the difficult conversations. We have to go through them. We can't go around them.
You know, and let me ask you, for me it was him taking notes. As painful as the truth was for him to hear, he still humbled himself and he took notes and he listened. We are in a very important year right now as a country. Do you think there will ever come a time where our leaders just sit, take notes and listen? Because even if we are frustrated at what the Western countries have done, there's still what has been done. And is being done to us right now. But when you look at these leaders, do you think our leaders will ever listen? I think, to the harsh truth.
I think, you know, even the clip, when I got onto Twitter and I saw some Kenyan leaders sharing it, it really irked me because I'm like, you do know that what I said there is also Atawewe. same WhatsApp
group.
Because you're also exploiting us.
Yes.
I think it should be a situation where we, as the people, understand that we actually have the power and we demand the truth and we demand impact and we demand better leadership because we deserve it. We actually deserve it. I think sometimes, to some extent, being a Kenyan is, and in the situation of Kenyans as the people and our leaders, it's an abusive relationship. It really is. It's every 4 years. They remember us and they come and like soothe us with sweet nothings and whatever. And then for the remaining time, it's abuse, it's overtaxing, it's stealing, it's all of these things. And then they beat you down to a pulp so much. And then they come back and they now give you love the year of, well, fake love, but they give you love the year of elections. That's the cycle of an abusive relationship, if you think about it, right? So I think we also have to remember, one, these people work for us. I hate when we call them muhesh, because even in the workplace, first, there's nothing honorable they're doing. Secondly, does your boss refer to you as, muhesh? You are actually their boss. You have employed them to lead you and to lead your communities and to bring certain infrastructure. Why are you groveling at their feet? That should show us that there's a problem. There's an imbalance somewhere, one. Number two, the structures and the accessibility for good leaders to get in and actually make impact are not there. So a lot of people will say, don't complain. And I've seen this. If I call out anything political on my pages, someone will be like, instead of, because I call out my MCA all the time because I really think he's done zero work.
Yeah.
Absolutely zero work, you know?
Yeah.
And an MCA is very important because the chances of you interacting with them are much higher than you interacting with the president.
Yes.
So this is the person who literally will be taking your grievances to the various departments.
This is the link.
The link.
Yes.
And so when I post that, people are like, then see you run, which is a very lazy response. Think about how much money-wise, finances, it takes for you to run for office, one. Think about, even if I have values,
Yes.
I have to align with a particular party because I'm running in an area like this. Even if I don't agree with what the party stands for, I need that ticket.
And I need his face on my campaign poster so that people can vote for
Right?
it. Yeah.
Then, because we've been beaten down to a pulp, we also, as Kenyans, believe this is my time to get 500 bob a day. Because after this time, I'm not going to see this leader for 4 years, right? So even me as Adelle, if I stand and run, it means I also have to have 500 bob to be, just dishing out. The system, the structures are so intentionally set to lock out good leaders. We actually have to have that conversation as well. But we also have to remember that we are the power. We are the ones who decide. Can you imagine if we just don't turn up to a political rally? Imagine, Lynn, if we just say,
Hatuendi,
mumetuchosha,
hatukuji.
hatukuji. Do you know they'll come look for you to actually listen to what it is? If we just said we're not showing up, we're standing against this, we're not showing up, we have the numbers.
Yes.
Why is it every 4 years, all of a sudden our leaders know Sheng? All of a sudden they're all tweeting Sipangwingwi.
Oh.
Isn't that telling you that they know you, Tena, as a young Kenyan, you are the power, you are the numbers. And we don't seem to really understand what that is, and to come together and use that power for our good. We allow them to separate us and to play us against each other, to play the tribal card.
Pull it out whenever it's beneficial for
yet
them.
them behind the scenes, they're
Yes.
different tribes and they're doing business together, they meet for tea, they're laughing together. Us will kill each other. Why have we refused to reclaim our power as citizens of this country? Why? Why have we left it to the hands of these people just because they're wealthy? Why?
I don't do a lot of political conversations on my show. I don't even host politicians on my show.
Yeah.
Because I think what hurts me is when you see better roads, you are like, hey, Aki amefanya. This person is
Yes.
but we don't understand. That's our money.
And
That's
you're
actually
right.
your job. That's what you are supposed to be doing. That's what you show up to work to do.
You don't clap for a fish for swimming. You really don't,
Yes.
You really don't. But that's what I'm saying. It's an abusive relationship. So even the bare minimum, I don't know if you've ever been in one of those relationships. You'll find yourself happy. He's come home before 10. Hey, thank God. That now is making you so happy. Yet you're like, that's bare minimum. What are you clapping for that for, And that's where we are. We really have forgotten that they work for us, that we hold them accountable.
Why do you think even when we are getting the bare minimums, we are okay? We are settling. Actually, why are we settling?
Why are we settling? That's a very loaded question. And I think there's multiple reasons. Some could be linked to what we're talking about, where we actually feel less than because we've been made to feel less than across generations by different entities. So from colonization, we feel like we're less than. And even during colonization, we were conditioned not to question authority, right?
Yes.
So you take and you're timid and you're weak and there's that. That has happened to us over generations. There's education.
Yes.
Our education system does not produce critical thinkers. It produces robots, people who take and regurgitate. That process of in 844, I don't know about CBC now, But in 844 of you're cramming to regurgitate. You're cramming to regurgitate. You're not doing presentations. You're not being asked, what do you think? Why do you think that is the right answer? Present. Tell me your thoughts. I'm going to sit back. What do you think of this?
Yes.
We don't birth critical thinkers.
We are studying to pass exams.
That's it. And if we do that for all of those years, we have been conditioned to just keep doing that. So we don't birth critical thinkers in this country. We do not. We don't birth solution makers. We do not. And we also have to know this is not by mistake. It is intentional as to why this is like that, right? So I think there's an element of that. And we're also crushed because, you know, you wonder, Lynn, where do you start? You know what I mean? There's so many problems, and even at the end of the day, you still have to pay your rent. So even if it's a protest, will I attend it? Or will I go to work? You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's a system it's crushing us. And I think those are a few elements as to why I think we've kind of...
Why we cave.
Yeah, we cave
settle.
and we're just like, bora I have enough for me and my family.
Yes.
Nimechoka. You know? People are not even interested in registering to vote for this coming elections. It's a crisis. But it's because you've beaten us down so much. We're like, what's the point?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I don't think it should be a conversation of leaders. We're not looking for politicians. We're looking for leaders. So it should be, even what have you studied? Is it law you've studied to help you kind of push for policy change? Are you an economist? Are you going to help us with this economy thing that's not working right now for us? You know? And the conversation needs to kind of move in that direction. But I think we first have to heal as Kenyans. We need to understand who we are. And then we need to remember that we actually have the power.
We have the power. Does it hurt you that it's them when things are working, and when things are meant to go haywire, it's me against you?
Yeah.
It's me versus you.
It does. It does. Because, I mean, we all have a different level of privilege, for sure, and I acknowledge that in this conversation. But I think sometimes we project our anger on the person who's more accessible. And that's a bit sad because they're also battling in this damaged system.
Yeah.
Maybe not the same way as you, but they're battling all the same, you know? And then we forget to hold the actual people accountable. And it's been happening for so many years that we've normalized that. We've normalized not holding them accountable.
Yes.
I hope in my lifetime, well, I don't know how long I'm going to live, but whatever
long time
years I have left, I hope I get to see at least the seeds of some change, you know, through these conversations we're having.
What are some of the changes you are craving for right now?
Oh my God, you know, I would love us to have, you know, sometimes, yes, we're part of media, right, even though we're new media.
Yeah.
I would love us to have conversations where, when we're interviewing or having conversations with people who are running for different public offices, about what they actually plan to do, how they plan to do it, the sustainability of it. And that's such a low-hanging fruit for me to ask for, right?
Yeah.
It literally can be changed tomorrow by somebody in traditional media who is in a political show, right? Because it's not enough to hear somebody say, I'm going to help youth. With what? And which youth? Is it unemployment? Is it education? What exactly? And what is your plan? And is your plan sustainable? You know, even if somebody is in that situation and they say, I'd like to do this, this, but here nimekwama kiasi.
How can we?
So here's my email address. If I'm running in this, for this community, you guys send me some of your ideas, or let's meet at this time because nimefika tu hapa with my idea. And even I would respect someone who does that, who understands maybe they don't have all the answers. But right now the buzzwords are, I'm helping youth now, mama. I'm like, how?
Unasema nini?
What are you saying?
What are you saying?
How are you helping?
Yes.
But then also there's a failure of traditional media who your role is to be a watchdog and to give Kenyans this information. You don't ask these questions.
Yes.
The questions, who's the most famous person on your phone? It's such pedestrian conversations we're having with people who are going to be leading this country in different capacities.
Yes.
That it's also a failure. That's one change that I think, even overnight, we can actually change that, you know?
Yes.
And then hopefully there'll be a day where we're not voting for who we distrust less.
Adele, say that
Like,
again.
this one is,
I'm seeing it.
this one is a thief, but it's not going to steal as much as that one. So let's, what? Don't we deserve
I
more?
hope there comes a time when we vote for the person that we trust and not the one that we
distrust. Like, ati, this one
huyu hata
is
you know,
less
I'm
than that
getting
other
a lot
one.
of that vibe. Huyu wacheni tuvotie
Yes.
huyu hata sanya
Yeah.
asha sanya anyways.
It's
Yes.
so strange, and I'm like, wow, don't we think we deserve more? You know, and that also speaks to the systemic structures and the systemic failures. I understand that. But I think first there has to be a mental change in how we think and how we approach leadership and what we think we deserve as Kenyans and as Africans.
Yeah.
You know, and having those bold conversations in every room you go into, you speak those truths because you don't know who you're going to be sparking to also think like, actually, that shouldn't be happening. Let me also speak against it, you know?
Yeah.
Don't cower from speaking your truth, even if it's in your living room with your parents and they're saying something that is completely out of pocket. Actually say, that's not right. You should be thinking like this.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Have the courage to speak that truth, because that will help us with the first step of changing our mindsets on certain things. Then think in your own capacity, what can I do to change something? You might think, you know, most of the time when we talk about change, we think, if I'm not doing the radical big thing, then there's no point of me doing anything at all. But that radical big thing is made of a collection of small people just doing their small things, right? So that small thing of yours is so important. If you're a photographer, how are you documenting injustices, you know? Or how are you creating projects that are making us think about certain things?
Yes.
If you're a musician, same thing. Are you just waiting to collect money the year for elections and then you move on?
Yeah.
Or can your music actually make us think, I deserve better? How is that truth coming up in your space with your talents or your passion?
Yeah.
It sounds like a small thing. But even if you change one person's mind or you impact one person, that's one person more than zero.
Good.
Right?
Good.
And if all of us impact 1, 2, 3 people, there will be collective change over time.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
I think it's Boniface Mwangi's wife, Njeri Mwangi, who said, and I had her on my podcast, and she said, this is like war, and everybody has their role to play. So your job is to find out what is your role,
what's my role,
and you play it.
And you play it.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you think, because you've had the privilege to, I was even watching one before you came here, the one for Zimbabwe, like you have had the privilege to have these talks in multiple summits.
Yeah.
Do you think they listen more than our leaders listen? Do you think even when you speak like that and you talk it out and you express how you feel, do you think they listen?
Sometimes I go back and forth with that.
Yeah.
I really go back and forth with that because there are times that I wonder if I speak and I don't the next day see a policy change, I've failed. You know what I mean? So, which is a bit unfair. I'm being unfair on myself because it's like, okay, friend, honestly, there are many moving parts. You are just doing your part, you know? I think there is an element of listening that needs to move. If you're a head of a state, it's not enough for you to just listen.
God.
You actually have to translate it into your actions, into your
Yes.
policies. You have to dare to do radical things after you've listened, right?
Yes.
Things that could cost you. You actually have to be uncomfortable. You have
Yeah.
to sacrifice. You have to actually do some action.
Yes.
But I think what's also very important is two things. One, in Zimbabwe, there were, so the conference was the third international conference on African cultures. And I really commend Zimbabwe for having hosted this conference quite a few times. Because if I'm going to digress for 2 seconds, but
okay.
you'll see how it leads back.
Yes.
As Africans, we've allowed our stories to be told through a Western lens, right? And that's a very biased lens. That was my first time in Zimbabwe in November when I went for that conference. And I went in with a biased lens, right? Of this broken country, blah, 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 blah. So many things going wrong, whatever. I hadn't, and I'm embarrassed. I even said it in the episode. I said I'm very embarrassed and I feel so ashamed that as an African, I didn't try my best to even use the internet that's at my disposal to look for Zimbabweans who have written about their own country and understand things from their perspective. I didn't do that. And when I touched down, I found people who are very similar to Kenyans, very similar. I found people who are so rooted to their culture that as Kenyans, we can learn so much from them.
Yes.
Their culture lives in tandem with modern things. As here in Nairobi, it's like more than 100% to Mesau,
Yes.
everything else,
Yeah.
right? I found it was such a spiritually tethering space. I didn't want to come back home. I know I said I cried a lot, but I was damn near tears
Yes.
when we were leaving. And I felt embarrassed about that. And that conference, that they put together this conference to demand that certain European countries bring back their objects and stuff, was something that I was like, oh my God, you're doing something so powerful, yet all people are talking about is
How failed of a nation you
exactly, right? So they invited different diplomats from, certain Western countries. And so number one, I like that they were there because they listened and they now knew that there is a generation that's not going to be as diplomatic as
our forefathers. Yes.
that you can't say certain things. This is an ambassador. And I was like, whatever. You guys stole our things, by the way. Bring them back, And part of my speech was, I said it's very insulting for you to expect me to negotiate with a thief who stole our things, because you would not do the same thing. You know what I mean? It's insulting for you to say, oh, we'll give it back to you, but do you guys even know how to take care of it?
Insulting.
Yes. It's insulting for you to say, oh, yeah, we want to give them back to you, but can you give us detailed documentation of all of these things, knowing damn well you guys took that information with you. So you know that we don't have it.
We don't have it.
Yeah. It's insulting. So I think, number one, it's important to talk, because then they knew they're young Africans who are not going to take, excuse my French, their BS, Number two, I think it's also important for other Africans to listen to that. So as important as it is for the heads of state to listen, even other Africans, because we get strength from each other. You watched that video, and now you thought, how do I use my space to have this conversation?
Good.
That's something,
Good.
right?
Yeah.
And I was getting people from Ghana, like from various countries, even just sending me a DM saying, thank you. Thank you so much. Like, you've really opened my eyes. And I'm like, that's really heavy, but it's also very important. So I don't think there's a difference between heads of state from Western countries and ours.
Yeah.
I think they're all failing in their own rights. I think issues of corruption are in all the countries. I think issues on oppression, racism, tribalism, all of these things are across. We're not less than in terms of African states in that regard.
Yes.
But I think it's still important to have those conversations. So sometimes I'm like, it didn't result in policy change.
But
I haven't seen something radical. Was it even worth it? Should I still do these speeches if I'm invited? Then I think about the spark, it's a spark, and it's my small thing that contributes to that bigger change.
I love that. I love that you said, even if they are not listening, talk.
Yeah.
Speak your truth.
Yeah.
Because eventually they will listen.
Okay.
Eventually
Absolutely.
they will listen. And I know you came here with a gift. So
I came with a gift
yes,
for you.
if Director Edwin Ochieng, who is very serious, pale, if Director Edwin Ochieng, you can just pass me, nicely wrapped as it is. Yeah, at least he makes, say hi.
Thank you.
No, just say hi.
Let me say hi to
Very important person. Yeah?
This is a very
hi.
important person. Yeah, thanks, Ed.
Thank
Yeah, I know you brought me this as a
Yes.
gift, and I had the opportunity to even look at
Picking it
Allow me.
before.
Am I allowed to introduce it to my audience?
Yes, you are.
For sure?
It's your gift.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
thank you. Yeah, so you have this amazing book.
Yeah.
It's called Our Broken Silence.
Yeah.
And I know this is very personal.
It's very.
Yeah, I think if you guys can see it, it's very personal.
Yeah.
There it is to you, and I thought it would be unfair for us to end this conversation without touching on it.
Yeah.
So, why Our Broken Silence, and why this particular book? I love how beautiful this is.
So
Yeah.
even just seeing you hold it.
Oh yeah.
I was like, when it arrived, I was like, I don't want to touch it. I can't believe it. I don't want to touch it, you know?
Yes.
And so it's a book that I've co-authored with, so the other lady on the back, her name is Lanji.
Yeah.
Lanji JJ Oko Awori.
Yes. Yeah.
And we've really...
Okay, you can look at it.
Yeah.
It's yours. It's yours.
We've really grown to have such a beautiful sisterhood,
Yeah.
you know? And so she reached out to me after Perspective that you attended, you know? And she's a brilliant Kenyan lady working in the legal space and very committed to ending sexual violence the same way I am. And so initially, we were just going to collaborate on a podcast episode and talk about sexual violence. And then as it went, she was like, this could actually be a book. Like, can we actually talk about doing a book together? And, you know, we had to, in 2020, when we went into the pandemic, we started writing. And the book is a collection. So Lanji and I both have chapters that we've written by ourselves. So a heavy chunk of the book is our stories. And I'll get to my bits and what I wrote about.
Yeah.
But the reason it's Our Broken Silence is that it's also other survivors and support systems of survivors who have shared their stories of surviving sexual violence. It's women, it's men, because, you know, sexual violence cuts across. And the reason we're breaking our silence is because in the silence there's an element of that we should be ashamed of what happened to us, when really the shame is not ours to carry. The shame is with the perpetrators of these crimes, because they are crimes. And so I think collectively coming together to write this is very powerful. Yeah. It's also powerful because it's stories from pre-colonization, through colonization, through to the 80s, 90s to present day.
Yes.
And it's not just Kenya, it's across the East African region. It's not just African survivors, it's also, you know, during that time there was a lot of, let's say, Indian people who had come to the country. There was unrest. The Indian women also suffered sexual violence. Yeah. So there are those stories as well.
Wow.
And I think it just documents, I think, I'm biased because, you know, co-authored it, but it's probably the most extensive deep dive into sexual violence for East Africa. And those stories are very important and must be told, must be read.
Must be read.
Our forward is by Martha Kome.
Can I?
Yes.
Can I? Because that caught me. Just can I?
Yeah.
Guys, excuse my English, but this is what Justice Martha Kome said, a must-read book. Lanji and Adelle have done a great job detailing the frantic struggles of silent victims, highlighted the dangers of nurturing the perpetrators of sexual violence, violence, that if it goes unbated, it threatens to break the very fabric of society. The book leads us to the inescapable question of who will be the next victim or survivor. That's the part that almost broke me. Who will be the next victim or survivor? You know, I've hosted so many people, and I was telling you earlier, it's the way I see them break down. It's the way I've seen victims, survivors of sexual violence, you know, break. And some of them do not, can I call it privilege? They don't know where to go.
Absolutely.
Therapy is expensive in this country. They don't know where to go. And for people to continue, you know, voicing these things out, I love it. But just talk to me about your bit of this book. A bit of it, because people need to get a copy.
Yeah, I think for me, it was the first time I was talking about very intimate details of my healing. And so I've been in therapy for a long time, a very, very long time. And I say it is a privilege. It's very expensive. I can afford it, but I see the pinch. You know, like you see it going, you're just like, Jamini, like how much is this that's going, you know? But one of the things that I feel like I had not addressed before publicly is how to reconnect with your body. You know, how to reconnect with you as a sexual being, because it's broken. It's really broken after you've survived. For me, it's rape, but there's various forms of sexual violence, and how do you exist in relationships afterwards? How do you? It's almost like you get into a relationship and you have to give a handbook to the person coming in. This is where I'm broken, this is how it manifests, you know what I mean? It changes so much. So you don't have the normal experience of a relationship, because there's a traumatic side of things, you know? I used to say, and I've spoken about this on my podcast, but I go into detail there. There were some like actual physical scars that I got from my experience. And so there was a huge chunk, even of my radio, like media career, where I would wear stockings, like thick, not the ones that you can see, you're like thick stockings, long sleeves. Like when I go into a shop and I see something that's nice, but it's short sleeved, I'm like, oh, that would be nice to wear, but can't wear it because, you know, scars. And in my head, I didn't want anybody to ask me what happened here. Because then now, what do I say? Is there a lie I can say so that I don't have to go into it? And I did extensive work, working on my body, even to sit here with you in like my dress with my legs out.
Lovely.
Thanks. It's like, even when we were styling for this, Brian Babu, my stylist, he was just like, we've come so far for us to be able to do this. So I speak about the journey to coming back home to myself and appreciating my physical body, and then communicating that appreciation to people I'm in relationships with, you know, and what that journey looked like. I think I also talk about certain recent events like University of Nairobi putting out that memo once there was a case of rape, telling their female students, oh, avoid this road, don't go here. Instead of addressing the problem, you're telling us, okay, how can we live with rapists? Okay, so we walk this side, you know what I mean? And that never works. So there's elements of that I talk about, but we're going to be launching it on the 3rd of March. 3rd of March. I'm very nervous, at the Macmillan Library in town from 6 p.m. And the book goes for 3,000 bob. Proceeds, a percentage of the proceeds go to my free group therapy program that runs under my initiative called the Adelle Onyango Initiative. But we also are going to be printing other copies that we're going to be stocking in libraries, not only for underprivileged or low economic areas, but we want also young people, both male, female, or whatever gender they identify with, to hold these stories, to read it, and to, one, if you're a survivor, not feel alone and not feel silenced by shame. That's one. And two, even if you're not a survivor, because we have documented across so many years, it almost shows that things haven't changed. And they need to change, because going back to what Martha Koome said, which is like, who's going to be next? If they don't change, who's going to be
the
next?
Victim.
So everybody to read it and to be like, what's my role? How am I going to contribute to changing this? Is it calling out my friend circles when they share memes or jokes that contribute to rape culture? You know, am I going to ask or go out of my way and just do a Google search to like learn more about it? That could be how you contribute to the change. And I think that's our hope for the book, Lanji and I, to just kind of help survivors not be silenced by shame, and to bring about people wanting to help us fight this war and to end sexual violence
and to
eventually.
end sexual violence. You're so brave.
Thank
you know,
you.
someone said one day on the show, Lynn, be brave and be soft. It's okay to be brave and be
that's powerful.
I was like, that's powerful.
Yeah.
It's okay to be brave
and to be soft.
And to be soft. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's
it's
powerful.
Beautiful.
Look at my tears already
No. To be brave and soft
to be
at
brave
the
and soft.
same
That's
time
powerful.
is beautiful.
That's powerful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wishing you
Thank
all the
you.
very best.
Thank
Looking
you.
back, if there's one thing that you would want anyone watching to change about themselves, what would it be?
Where I am right now,
Yeah.
I think it's to tell people that you are okay as you are, in the physical form that you are. There's no one way to be a human, or to have a human experience, or to be an African. The way you are is very valid. I think we're bombarded by so many things that are constantly telling us we're less than. I think because I've done that work and I'm almost there. I mean, I have my days where I'm just like, oh my God, I look terrible, or you're not doing enough with your podcast, so this is going to fail. Why are you even trying? Just give up. You know what I mean? And you have those days where you're so harsh to yourself. But I think what I always go back to is just knowing you're okay as you are. What you're trying to do is very valid. There are hard days, there are good days. Keep going, keep moving, you know. I think that's important. And then to constantly do the work on healing and growth. The same way you give your employer, if you're employed, or your passion projects so much of your attention, is the same attention you should give yourself in trying to say, I want to be better. I want to heal from this. I want to work on this. I have anger issues. I want to work on this. I am not a patient person. I want to work on this. I'm constantly being criticizing people. I want to work on this. Really confront those demons that we have, our inner demons, and be courageous enough or brave enough to do the work consistently to become better. It would be sad to... Those things keep us from living a full life, Lynn.
Good.
They keep us from living a full life. And can you imagine living and dying, having just existed? You know, you've just... This
Not
one
lived,
beautiful life you've
just
been given,
existed.
you've just existed. And the thing that is keeping you from that is your insecurities, all of these things. So one, know that you're okay as you are. You're very valid. Two, the things that are your inner demons that are keeping you from really living, start being brave enough to work on them day by day.
Day by day.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to let you go.
Ah!
I feel like I'm having a sister moment today. Okay, I feel like I'm having a sister moment today on the show. I genuinely, it's the energy.
Yes.
I'm very keen on
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
I feel people's energy. You can just feel like you want to spend
And we
the
clicked.
rest of... Yeah. You know, I hope we get to spend more
Of
time
course,
together.
remember the words I
Yes,
told you.
yes.
You call
Anytime.
at any time.
At any,
Yeah.
that was really good.
Yeah.
I felt wow.
Yeah.
I felt taken care of.
Oh.
Like there was some luggage that just
Yeah.
came, lot of
That's
baggage
powerful.
in me that
Yeah.
came. Anyways, today, especially to the people, the victims, because
Yeah.
there are people who are still on that victim stage and survivors. There are still people who are not yet, you know, these stories are very personal for me because I've had people open up their doors, their houses, sat here and trusted me enough to talk to me about their deepest fears and their deepest scars. So many of them will be watching you, especially because we know the journey and we know how vulnerable and open you've been with your story. For the broken ones, not those ones who are going through the broken silence, but the broken ones. And to those people who it happened yesterday, to those people who by the time they are watching this episode, it just happened, it happened 10 years ago, something beautiful was taken away from them, what would you want to tell them?
I think it's just two things, which I keep, the first one is what I keep reiterating.
Yes.
The shame isn't yours to carry.
Absolutely.
Even though immediately it happens that you're just thinking, okay, maybe if I wasn't on that street, or if I didn't wear this, or if I wasn't drunk, or if I did, you know, you try and kind of like take ownership of this crime that, and violation that was committed against you. It's normal to feel those things, but it's also not the truth. So you have to restructure that, you know? So that shame, that blame is not yours to carry at all in any amount, in any form. It's not yours to carry, one. And then when you drop that shame down and you start really confronting and rebuilding, the second thing I would want to say is that it gets better. If you had told me, because for me it was 2008, if you had told me in 2022, like I would be writing about it in a book or openly talking about it, I think I'd have thought you're insane. Because in that moment, I was just so broken. It was more like I just wanted to hide from the world, like just disappear. You know what I mean? So it does, I think I am a testament to it gets better. It's hard as hell to actually do the work. It's unfair as well, because it's not like I went out looking for this thing and then now I have to spend the rest of my life trying to work and heal on it, right? So it's unfair, but it does get better.
Thank you so much, Adelle.
Thanks.
Where can people find you?
Okay, so I'm on, I think mostly Instagram. Mostly Instagram, which is Adelle Onyango. On Twitter, Adelle O, Facebook, Adelle Onyango, and then on my weekly audio podcast, Legally Clueless. And we also have a YouTube channel, which is Legally Clueless as well.
You know, I'm going to be pinning the comment here of my episode on Legally. I loved it. Thank you, guys.
Healing.
No, thank you for even extending an invitation.
Healing.
Really?
I was so excited.
I was so nervous.
I went back and I was like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe who's agreed to share story.
Oh,
Lynn.
no.
Lynn is coming. I was very excited.
No,
very excited.
Really, guys, you can find the link to my episode on Legally Clueless right here, pinned on this comment section. And of course, I'm getting this book for myself. Nothing that you even asked me to do here on the show.
I brought it as a gift.
I know, she brought it as a gift and I just blew things into proportion. So guys, if you would want a copy of our Broken Silence, it's out.
Yes,
3rd March.
3rd March is when we launch it, and by then I will send you all the details. But on my Instagram page, I'll also be posting all the details.
So if you need a copy, even if you want to pre-order, just go on IG, DM her, and get yourself a copy. And also, great job to all the participants, the women who shared, the men, everyone that shared their story here. We appreciate you. Personally, I appreciate you. Thank you for being my sister in this industry. It feels really good to know that I can genuinely call on Adelle
anytime
when things are a bit tough.
Anytime. And even when they're good.
Even when they're good. Even when they're good, I'll call you. But when they are tough, it's important for me to know you are a call away.
Absolutely.
I love you. Giving you your
Lynn.
Flowers also.
Thank you.
May God bless you. May He open doors for you.
Thank you.
May you prosper. May you one day represent us, even in those offices that I know you wouldn't dare. But may you one day wake up and tell me, Lynn, I am running. I'm
Yeah.
not saying running where, but if you do, me, I will be
Yeah.
right there with you. Thank you for
you.
everything that you stand for. It's not every day that we get an opportunity to talk to such an authentic person.
thank
You
you.
are that person for me. Yes,
Thanks,
watu
Lynn.
wangu watu wa kujenga wameanza. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode that I can confidently say this one was for myself.
Yeah.
But I hope you guys you also enjoyed. Remember, if you want a copy of our Broken Silence, it's right there. DM Adele on her IG and you can also pre-order, coming out that much. Asanteni sana for taking your time, supporting our work, subscribing. I cannot believe we are 300k plus subscribers. I mean, guys, I love you. I love how much you care about our work. The time you take just to listen to our stories, watch our episodes. I do appreciate you. I would not do this without the amazing team that I have. Legendary camera person and director, Edwin Ochieng. Thank you so much, Ed. We appreciate you here on the show. And of course, our amazing editor, Chebet Kirui, for always taking your time and making sure these episodes are reaching our audience right on time. Our mentor, Saveli Barashkov, thank you, my guy, for standing with us and helping us impact the communities. And also, if you want to share your story with me, email yangu ndio hapo on the screen. Send a summary and who knows, you could be sitting with you on the next episode of LNS. My name is Lynn Ngugi. Tuonane next time. Be kind. Sawa. Bye-bye.